All right, welcome to the month of May City of Revere Board of Health public meeting. Will you please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance? Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, and I will introduce myself. I am Dr. Drew Bunker, Chairperson of the Board of Health. To my left is Kathleen Savage, Board Member, and to my right is Viviana Catano, Board Member as well. Invited municipal staff is Lauren Buck, Director of Public Health, Michael Wells, Health Agent, Director of Inspectional Services, and Paula Sepulveda, Board of Health Clerk. We also have Bonnie Carroll here, Director of City Tobacco Initiative. First topic is going to be review and approval of the minutes from the April meeting, 2025. I'm going to ask the other board members if they approve the minutes.
I approve the minutes.
I approve of the minutes.
Excellent. Me as well. Next is going to be the Public Health Communicable Monthly Report with Lauren.
Thanks, Dr. Bunker. So the communicable report for May 2025, our communicable disease burden is low again. We've had 16 confirmed cases of influenza, 15 confirmed and 2 probable cases of coronavirus. 1 case of measles. It's actually not it's a close contact case from an international flight, so not a direct case in this situation. For updates from the state and national public health, from the CDC, the National Center for Injury Prevention and Control on May 14th shows a remarkable 27% decrease in predicted drug overdose deaths in 2004 compared to 2003 on average. Despite these overall improvements, overdose remains the leading cause of deaths for Americans aged 18 to 44, underscoring the need for ongoing efforts to maintain this progress. Massachusetts has yet to release their overdose data for 2024. Once it is released, I will give you an update for how Revere stands. They do release community and city level data for overdose deaths. And so we can compare year after year, and so I'll let you know about that. From the City of Revere Health and Human Services, the second Lifesavers League class will be held on Thursday, June 26th from 6 to 7:30 at Revere High School's Learning Commons. Please visit the public health website on revere.org if you are interested in signing up. This class will focus on home fire safety and hands-only CPR. It will be held in English and Spanish, and childcare will be offered. That's it. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Lauren. Next is going to be the Inspectional Services Monthly Report with Michael Wells.
Thanks, Dr. Bunker. Inspectional Services Monthly Report for the month of May. On the Interior Housing Division, we issued 96 certificates of fitness, 8 re-inspections on certificate of fitness, 6 interior complaints received, 1 interior complaint in process, and 1 interior complaint re-inspection. We issued 12 new licenses for pool and spa inspections and 5 re-inspections on pools and spas. On the Food Inspection Division, we conducted 34 routine inspections, 5 re-inspections, 5 complaint inspections, 2 temporary food inspections. And on the Exterior Sanitation Division, we issued 55 violations for accumulation of litter, garbage, trash, and debris, 1 violation for carts out at improper times, 1 violation for commercial vehicles in residential neighborhoods, 52 violations for overflowing dumpsters, 328 violations for improper placement of garbage, trash, and bulky items, 1 violation for improper sign on public property, 10 violations for improper storage of garbage and trash, 13 violations for junk heaps, which is dumps in automobile graveyards, improper storage of vehicles, and 1 violation for multiple unregistered vehicles on residential property, 3 violations for rodent harborage, and 101 violations for unclean, unsanitary land, which includes overgrowth and vegetation, 3 violations for unpermitted dumpsters and compactors, and 1 violation for unsafe structure. We also issued 1 violation for working without a permit. Just want to remind residents and businesses that we are in overgrowth season, so please ensure that your lawns are maintained moving through the remainder of the summer. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Michael. Next is going to be the presentation from Bonnie Carroll, who's the director of the 6 City Tobacco Initiative.
Thank you all for having me. I would just start out by saying that so far, we're a little bit behind this year for a number of reasons. We're in the process of catching up, but there's a contractor helping with inspections with me, and we have just hiring 2 more youth so that we can speed up some compliance checks. But at this point, 23 compliance checks have been done in Revere. All of them passed the compliance check, so that's very good. And we're about halfway through with inspections, and inspections are going pretty well, too. But the reason I'm here is that I understand you would like to hear about some of the emerging products that we see out in the field as we do these inspections, and what we hear from youth about, mostly anecdotal, just because we don't have the data yet for some of these products. But anecdotally, we hear that a very big seller is these things called nicotine pouches. And I'm going to pass them around so that you can look at them. But first, I want to tell you a little bit about them. So these are nicotine salts rather than tobacco. There's no tobacco in here, but as we know, it's the nicotine that is the addictive product, of, the part of these, not the tobacco. So these are quite dangerous. Just to give you some context, in a package of Marlboro cigarettes, an entire package, there's 127 milligrams of nicotine. I hope I have my figures right. It's close, if not totally right. In one of these pouches, there is 8 milligrams of nicotine, and there are 20 of these in a tin that cost approximately $5, sometimes a little more, sometimes a little less. There are some of these that are called snooze, which are in a little skinny one package that looks like a Tic Tac package that has that you can get for $1.99 or so. So the fact that we tag very big taxes onto these products to keep them out of the hands of youth because they can't afford them. These are kind of flying under the radar right now. So I'm going to pass them around. So this tin at 8 milligrams a pouch, 20 pouches in here. Compare that to 127 milligrams in an entire pack of Marlboros, and you'll see how dangerous these are. And when I go into stores, there are 2 stores in the collaborative now that don't allow these products to be sold in regular convenience stores. They have restricted them to adult-only retail stores. But when I go into a convenience store where these are allowed, they are flooding the shelves. And so when you go into convenience stores now, take a look, behind, we call it the power wall, which is the wall behind the cash register that shows you what the products are. And primarily it's cigarettes and cigars. But if you look closely, you'll see these tins. And we see cases upon cases of these in stores. And the retailers tell us we can't keep up with them sometimes because that's how many are being sold. So the addictive nature of those is extremely concerning because young people who are using them get addicted very quickly without realizing it, and because they have such a high concentration of nicotine. Anecdotally, we have even heard that for some young sports athletes, that they make a little cut between their toes and put one of these packets on there so that they can get nicotine into their into their bloodstream very quickly to keep the level of nicotine up. So very concerning. So I'll answer any questions about those first, and then I'll go on to a couple of other things, if you have any questions. Anybody?
Bonnie, I do. I'm sorry, can you share again? So this versus a pack of cigarettes. A pack of cigarettes has how much?
127 milligrams in the entire pack.
127 for a pack of cigarettes, and one of these?
One of those is 8 milligrams. That one is an 8 milligram one. They go up to 18 milligrams per pouch.
Per pouch, and there's
Yeah.
20.
So there's 20 in there,
Thank you.
okay? And like I said, they're very low price compared to a pack of cigarettes, which we have added big taxes on to keep them out of the hands of young people. So
What does this cost, Bonnie?
that one is called Zolt, but the most common one is called Zyn, Z-Y-N. That's the one that's most popular among young people. The other one that looks like a Tic Tac pack is called ON, O-N. And if you go into stores, you'll see them advertised, you'll see them on the shelves.
And these are all now unflavored products?
I'm sorry, say them again?
These are all unflavored?
They're unflavored. They do come in some flavors in menthol, but we haven't seen any of those around here. So they're unflavored. Mhm. Just high concentrations of nicotine. Okay. All right, now I'm going to show you, these
Can I
are.
ask a quick
I'm going
question?
to pass these around as well.
Quick
Sorry.
question, sorry. Now, are these regulated the same way as cigarettes, or what is the
No,
regulation?
at the moment,
There's
they're
nothing.
unregulated.
So,
Yep.
12-year-old or whatever can walk in the store? and
Oh,
get it?
no, they're regulated in that way.
Okay, they're regulated by
You
age.
have to be 21 to buy them.
Okay.
Mhm. What I meant by
That's-
unregulated is they're unregulated by the FDA and the
Okay.
people who we would wish were regulating them.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. Okay. Anybody else? Okay. All right. So now, and we can pass the Zin around when you're done, Viviana, and everybody can. Yeah, and I wouldn't recommend handling them too much because they've got a lot of nicotine in them. You're going to get them on your fingers. Did they go this way? Yeah, everyone saw them? Okay. So now I'm going to pass around, this is called a Crave. This is a nicotine, we call these an electronic nicotine delivery system. So it's a vape, essentially. That's the name that most people would call it. This is clear. So let me just say one other thing. I was at a statewide meeting today of all the boards of health people doing what I do. And the purpose of the meeting was to look at some of these products that are labeled as non-flavored and to sniff them. And sometimes some people blew them into the air just so we could get a little whiff of it. To most of us, they're clearly flavored, even though they say they're not flavored. And the state law at this point requires retailers to have manufacturer's letters on file so that when we go in, we do inspections, we check permits and we check manufacturer's letters. And the manufacturer's letters are supposed to verify that these products are not flavored. And we're finding that they do say that, but they're signed by bogus people. They just lump them all together and say they're all not flavored, and we don't buy it. We think most of them are flavored with some kind of menthol or some fruity thing. You know, I don't recommend that we'll blow the smoke in here and everybody sniff, but I'll pass it around just so you can see what it looks like. It easily fits in a pocket. Some of them, here, I'll give you this one too, Paula. This is shows you the colors. You know, these, most adults you wouldn't think are really into these neon colors or so on. But we'll get to the more concerning ones in a minute. But just so you can see those. So then, when we get done with that, I'll show you these. Any questions about those? Okay. So the next part I wanted to talk about for a minute, thank you, Paula, was that, part of the reason, as you all know, that we do this is to keep these products out of the hands of young people. Because if we can keep them from getting addicted to these products before their brains are fully developed, we have a much better chance of keeping them from becoming lifelong addicted. So now research shows maybe the age of brain development to have a fully developed adult brain that can differentiate better and are less likely to get addicted is around 26, right? So even at that, at 21, we're still a little bit behind, with what the research shows. But why we do this job and why you do what you do is to do our best to keep these out of their hands while they develop enough strength to get through this. Well, we hear from manufacturers and people like that, that are producing these products, that the reasoning is to keep adults, help adults get off nicotine, so to speak, stop smoking cigarettes and so on. I'm going to pass around 3 products right now that are electronic nicotine delivery systems. Thank you. Electronic nicotine delivery systems. And I would ask you, how many adults do you think would take this to smoke their stuff with? I mean, maybe some, but I mean, that's pretty dramatic, right? It's a picture of a little bear. You'll see it in a minute. I'm going to give you all copies of pictures of these as well so that you have them. But it looks like a little bear, and they come in multiple colors. This one happens to be green. They come in pink and blue and fancy colors. So we're laughing, but obviously this is extremely concerning. Here is one where you can vape while you listen to your music. It's a mini little CD player. We have one, I don't have a product with me tonight, but we have one that is a video game. So you can video game while you vape. Here's a little guitar.
These so look like, oh, the side. They look like they're so geared for kids.
Sorry, say it again?
They look like they're geared for children, not
Absolutely.
for adults.
Yes. And so, we hold suspect when we're told that these are just for adults. We're not, we're not trying to entice kids. Well, one would say that's debatable. There's also one, as I said, I don't have the one that's a video game here tonight. There's also another one who, those of you who are familiar with when you have asthma, as I do, I have an inhaler that will tell me how many puffs are left. You can get vapes now that tell you how many puffs are left so that you never run out. We give these out, call it too. People can just have them. Here's one with an orange bear.
Bonnie, are these reusable?
Sorry?
Like, are these reusable? Reusable meaning like, do you buy refillable cartilages, or are these?
I don't know about that, but I'll certainly research it and get back to you with the answer.
Thank you. And how much do these cost?
I don't know that either. Unfortunately, I did not buy these. I got them from another worker today who's doing this in another community. I'll find out how much that is too. And the reason I felt comfortable bringing ones from another community is because we're seeing them everywhere. So it's not going to be any different in Revere. Yeah, thank you. Great, thanks. Partly, I didn't buy them because I don't have it in my budget to be buying them for show and tell. If I confiscate them, then I would have them, but. So happy to answer any other questions you might have. And, yeah, I guess that's all I have to say unless you have questions.
I just have a comment, Bonnie, thank you so much. So when I was doing substance use disorder prevention at Revere High School, we definitely were seeing really high rates of vaping at the high school. So I would love to be able to review like the youth health risk behavior survey data once it comes out, so we can see how those numbers have changed. I know it used to be a very serious problem at the high school when the students were vaping with Juuls, and they would put the vape pods in the grids in the bathroom, or they would throw them into the toilet. And so unfortunately, this is a really big issue because we fought against flavors because the industry was using flavors at that point to attract young people. Strawberry, blueberry, lemon, and then people, very young kids. My sister, who's a nurse at one of the schools, told me that you would see fifth graders, being caught with vapes and things like that, and they're not using it because they think they're using a tobacco product. They're using it because somebody offered them to them, and it tasted nice. So I just want to say thank you, Bonnie, because the work that you do is incredibly important. So thank you so much for keeping tabs on this and making sure people are following the regulations.
Thank you, my pleasure. I just wanted to add something too. So you can see by these products, when you mentioned Juuls, Viviana, I was thinking, we've come so far from Juuls, and we remember how scared we all were about Juuls, right, and what we wanted to see happen because we were so panicked about this. Well, we did well. Juuls, was taken to court and sued, and the government won the settlement and so on. But those of us doing this work are always 10 steps behind the next industry new thing. Like we went from Juuls to Zyn and nicotine pouches, and now we're going from that to, CD players that play your vape. So it's just, the more we can keep up with what's happening and try our best to keep ahead of it, the better, because they have billions of dollars to do these kinds of things, to market, and it's not a mistake. They know that they're marketing to young people. There's been data that's come out that shows that the big companies will say, if we can't, we have a lot of people quitting, adults are quitting. If we can't get a new, younger generation hooked on this, we're out of business. So it's not an accident, and they're way ahead of us. So just want to leave you with that if there's anything.
Bonnie, I have a question for you. This probably not because these products are so new, but is there any data yet to show where if someone was using, like the nicotine pouches, like Zyn is the name that I hear the most, that they would be more likely to transition over to like smoking traditional cigarettes?
I don't know, but I will find the answer out, yes. As I said, the data is kind of a little bit behind at this point because it's relatively new, although it's sort of like the playbook looked exactly like Juuls. Juuls, no one heard of Juuls, and suddenly we've got it everywhere, and kids are addicted. So it's very similar, but I will find out. There are people who are more versed in that than I am, so I'll get that answer for you.
Bonnie, I also have a question. Sorry. Are you finding more of an incidence of like teenagers, whatever, being hospitalized with respiratory issues from using these products? Similar to what happened with Juul when it first came out?
Yeah, I haven't heard of that yet, but again, the data is not there yet. That's what we keep being told by the people who feed us the data. So we're waiting to hear, but I would say yes. There's so much nicotine in there that I can't imagine that they're not, being poisoned by it, actually, if they get really addicted. We are hearing stories that, just like Juuls, they can't get through the night, or they can't get through class without having to run out as quick as they can to get another pouch. That reminded me to tell you about one other thing. Another thing that's so dangerous about these, we feel, is that even with Juuls, although Juuls was a big step away from smoking in terms of there's no billow of smoke when you're smoking, a Juuls, but they still had some smoke and a little bit of smell. So even though kids are in school and they're blowing it into their hoodies, there was some indication that it was there. These Zyns or pouches like this, there's literally no smell, no smell. They don't have to spit out the juice. So there's no indication really of what they're doing. They're able to do it very quietly and indiscreetly. So,
Yeah, I actually was gonna have one more comment, but I think what you just said maybe answered it. I was wondering, why are young people transitioning to these nicotine pouches? But I think we understood that when the Juul epidemic started and young people started experimenting with flavors, again, it started out as curiosity, here's this thing that smells like bubble gum. A fifth grader, a sixth grader, seventh grader passes this to each other, and before you know it, they're consuming high quantities of nicotine and becoming incredibly addictive to this product. So I was asking myself, why have they moved to nicotine pouches? But I think your answer makes sense, that at this point, they're probably addictive. They have a disorder, and they now have this dependency on nicotine. They cannot function without it. So it probably is easier to, manage the disorder of the nicotine by using these pouches that you can
Right.
better hide. Interesting. And what is this thing you were talking about, cutting of the pouch and putting it between the toes?
Again, there's no research that the data has come up, this is just anecdotally, but that the nicotine will get directly into their bloodstreams very quickly if they put a little cut in between their toes and put the pouch there, so that then they can go do sports and so on, and they're having nicotine continuously in their bloodstream.
Yeah.
You raised another issue, Vivian, if I might. So you said that, that the young people were interested in these because they were flavors and they were being, promoted as taste and yummy. They taste like bubble gum, they taste like this, happy things that children love. Well, the big piece in that, too, was that they were being lied to about the fact that these were nicotine and addictive. I heard many stories of young people who said, I thought it was water with some flavoring in it. No one mentioned the nicotine. And the pouches are the same thing on a different level, albeit, but still, because I hear people say, well, they're not tobacco, so they're not really a problem. I've even had retailers or clerks, not so much retailers, but clerks who sold it to young people and say, well, I didn't think I couldn't sell those to them, even though they've been trained, but because that's not tobacco, but it's the nicotine that is the issue. And just so you know, like right now, this program is called the Six City Tobacco Initiative, and the funders of this program is the Mass Tobacco Cessation Program, but we're moving slowly, but we're moving towards calling it the nicotine programs, because tobacco is a misnomer at this point. It's way beyond tobacco.
Bonnie, thank you for that comment. I also just want to say that when I used to work in substance use disorder prevention, and I was at a conference, they were showing us the graph of different substances and like their level of addiction. And what always stuck with me is that according to the research that they were showing us, nicotine was, if not as much, more highly addictive than cocaine. So I think most people tend to understand cocaine is a very addictive substance, but they might not know how addictive nicotine is. And that's why it matters, and that's why it really matters in a developing brain. The younger they are, the more likely they are to develop these, very strong disorders to whatever substance they're using. So it's really good to emphasize that the nicotine is highly addictive, just as addictive as some of the other substances that parents may be terrified if they knew that their kids were using. So I really appreciate the work that you're doing again, Bonnie. Thank you.
My pleasure. I just another anecdote is that I have a family member who was getting off cigarettes and turned to Nicorette gum. Now, I don't know what the research or anything shows about Nicorette gum, but I will say this person has a lot of problems with arthritis, right? And nicotine is extremely, what's the word? You know how we don't want inflammation in our bodies. That's very dangerous. Nicotine is very inflammatory. So this person is now, even though they're getting 2 milligram Nicorette packages, they're so addicted to nicotine that they're eating these constantly. So the inflammation is there, the addiction is there, even with some of the products that are made to help. These are not products made to help. I made that clear already, but even the ones that are, sometimes it's a problem. So, yeah.
Yeah, thank you, Bonnie. Yeah, I'll just reiterate the long-term effects of nicotine, not only, like we said, on causing addiction, the effects that would have on someone's ability to, someone's mental health, definitely the effects of long-term nicotine on cardiovascular disease. I know that there's studies to show that. So fertility also as well, nicotine can affect fertility. So nicotine in itself is dangerous, long-term use of it. So We think about just cigarettes and all the harmful chemicals, but nicotine in itself, unfortunately, is also harmful for the brain development, causing addiction and dependence, and altering the reward system in the brain, which can affect other parts of people's life, and very difficult. So, all right, thank you, Bonnie.
Hey, my pleasure, thank you. Bye-bye.
All right, next we will do the review and approval of the updated North Suffolk Public Health Collaborative intermunicipal agreement with Lauren.
Thanks,
Thank you.
Dr. Bunker. I'll probably fumble over my words too, because this is a very long legal document that I'm going to try to explain as much as I can to you all. So today we're going to ask the board to vote on the new North Suffolk Public Health Collaborative intermunicipal agreement. And Dr. Bunker will sign on behalf of the board as the chair. If you all remember, Barry Keppard from MAPC, the Metropolitan Area Planning Council, came before you several months ago to talk about some changes that are happening to the governance structure of the North Suffolk Public Health Collaborative, and this is the result of those changes, and it's kind of the formal document that would codify or solidify those changes. So in addition to being presented today at the Revere Board of Health, the Chelsea Board of Health and the Winthrop Board of Health are also presenting this to ensure that their boards of health can vote on this document as well. So I'm going to maybe explain a little bit of the backstory and then talk a little bit about the important parts of the document. So the North Suffolk Public Health Collaborative currently exists. It's existed for many years. It is a representative of the Revere Board of Health, the Chelsea Board of Health, and the Winthrop Board of Health. We have a contract that we've signed for many years. We have an existing contract for fiscal year 25 that represents somewhat of a different governance structure than this agreement would reflect. In fiscal year 26, which starts in July 1st, 2026, we are going to be governed under this document. And why are we doing that? So several years ago, during COVID 2020, the state since that time, the state has encouraged public health departments to move towards more regional collaboration. And the way that they do that is by giving regions grants. The grants are called Public Health Excellence. The North Suffolk Public Health Collaborative has been a part of the Public Health Excellence Grant since 2020. That Public Health Excellence Grant funds several things. A regional epidemiologist who's presented here several times. We've gone through, there was a previous epidemiologist who then left, and we have a new epidemiologist who has also presented to you all. She does work on behalf of the region for lots of fancy epidemiological things that are important for many different reasons. We also have a regional public health nurse. She sits in Revere 2 days a week. She sits in Chelsea 1 day a week. She sits in Winthrop 1 day a week. Her name is Lori. She runs our childhood immunization program and many other things. An invaluable member to all of our public health departments, and she is funded through the Public Health Excellence Grant. Because we have so many integral components of our public health departments tied to the Public Health Excellence Grants, and because the state wants all of these shared service areas to be governed by the rules of the Public Health Excellence Grant and all those things, we have to have a new agreement that creates a new governance structure because of all those reasons. Are you all following me up until this point? Okay. So this agreement is very long and has a lot of technical legal jargon, but some of the most important things are things that I will talk about now. One is that this agreement creates an advisory board. The advisory board, according to the state, has to consist of Board of Health members. Previously, the advisory board consisted of the leaders of each community, i.e. the mayor, the town manager, and the city manager for Chelsea and Winthrop. So this agreement, in this agreement, the advisory board has to be made up of Board of Health members, one Board of Health member from each community with a alternative in case there's a, sickness or anything like that. This agreement does not specify who on each Board of Health that member has to be. I think we've talked a little bit about this to each individual member, and there's, we can always potentially change this as things come up, but it has to be a Board of Health member. So that's one important component and one change. What that Board of Health member would be taking on as part of the advisory board is regular meetings. I don't think necessarily monthly meetings, but regular meetings that would be updating you on what the Public Health Excellence Grant is accomplishing, what the 3 communities are working on together, that type of thing. And also, importantly, deciding and voting on the budget every year for the grants. Currently, the budget is decided by all of us agreeing on strategies that we all agree on, salaries, et cetera, that have to be paid through the grant. I don't anticipate that the decision-making will not be informed by all of us, continue to be informed by all of us, but the advisory board would have the final say under this governance agreement. And then finally, the payment structure currently, so let me just back up. The North Suffolk Public Health Collaborative is run by MAPC, meaning they facilitate all of our monthly meetings, our weekly meetings. They host the epidemiologists, so they are the ones who, host some of the positions. Currently, every year, each city appropriates money from the general fund to pay the fee for MAPC to run the North Suffolk Public Health Collaborative every year. Under this agreement, the funds for the fees for MAPC will now come out of the Public Health Excellence Grant. So each city and town does not have to appropriate funding out of a general fund. We can pull it right out of the Public Health Excellence Grant, which is great because it frees up some of the general fund funding for other things that all of our communities want to do. And also there's the Public Health Excellence Grant is, as much as any grant is guaranteed, it's an initiative that the state really wants to make happen and wants to make successful. And so I think we're all pretty confident that the Public Health Excellence Grant will be around for many years. So the funding for MAPC and the regional nurse and the epidemiologist is pretty stable, I would say. There's a lot of other things in this agreement, but I think those are the most important components. If you have any questions, I will do my absolute best to answer them. I hopefully will be able to answer them. But also tonight is just making sure that we give you the space to vote and have Dr. Bunker as the chair sign. It will then go to the mayor who has to sign and then to our city solicitor who also has to sign, who have both been briefed on this, and the city solicitor has also read through a draft of this and given edits to MAPC who wrote the document. I think that's it. Any questions for me? Okay, go ahead, Viviana. I'll try to answer.
No, you're good. Thank you, Lauren. I'm familiar with this process, and everything you said was clear to me. Just more out of curiosity, do you know why the advisory board has changed from city leaders to board members? I'm just curious why the change.
I believe it's because in the state's eyes, public health departments are an extension of the Board of Health, not necessarily an extension of, although we're always an extension of the city and the mayor, the guidance of our work should be guided by a Board of Health over potentially a city or town executive. I believe that's why.
Thank you.
And so I think if you don't have any other questions, you can each vote on if you approve Dr. Bunker to sign the agreement.
So I'll be signing the agreement for...
On behalf of the Board of Health.
Okay, all right.
The mayor will sign on behalf of himself, and the city solicitor will also sign on behalf of...
And just to clarify, this is to approve the way we're going to...
The intermunicipal agreement.
Yep.
Of which this big document, I highlighted, I think,
Yes.
the most important components of what it actually means. In reality, for you all, it means that one of you will have to be a part of the advisory board. I don't think it necessarily needs to be the same person every time. It can be a rotating person. That component is still to be worked out of who that would be, but that is part of it. I don't know if you remember, when Barry was here last time, he talked
Yes.
about that, and yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I remember. Yep. Okay, thank you. Yeah, I think it makes sense for us to sign it. So,
I agree, it makes sense.
yeah,
Yeah, I think it makes sense, and I think it's great that the funds are now coming from the grant and not from the city funds. So I think during these times of financial difficulties for everybody, that's really good news.
great. All right. So, yeah, so vote from each member. Yes. Can
I
just-
vote yes.
I vote yes as well,
Yeah, and
approving.
that's me as well. So 3 for 3 approval. Great. All right, last topic of this meeting will be the vote to ratify the decisions to remove the condemnations of 71 Pitcairn Street and 56 Ambrose Street. Michael?
Thanks, Dr. Bunker. As you may recall, over the past year, we had several properties before us under recommendation for condemnation. These two properties were also condemned by the board under the recommendation of myself and our legal services. With that being said, we have two properties before us tonight, 71 Pitcairn Street and 56 Ambrose Street, both of which have been addressed. Permits were pulled to overhaul those properties. 71 Pitcairn Street has been sold. There is a new owner. Certificate of occupancy has been issued. 56 Ambrose is nearing completion. That was sold at auction, and the contractor is currently in there, and they're just about coming to home plate within the next couple weeks. So that will be on the market very shortly. And so good work with the, getting these properties back into the condition to make them habitable once again. And also they're not blights to the neighborhoods. So, thank you and kudos to, they're tough decisions at the time when we have to make them, but they're necessary decisions at those times as well. So this is the result of those decisions. So it's nice to see that, things do work out, and the neighborhoods are happy, and the homes are back to a habitable state.
Great. Thanks, Michael. All right, that will conclude this month's meeting.
We will just need a vote
we'll
on
vote.
those.
No, yeah, we will vote
to
first.
remove the condemnation.
Then we will conclude the meeting. So I just get a vote from the other board members.
Okay, I agree to ratify the decision to remove the condemnation of the two buildings.
I agree as well.
Excellent, I agree. 3 for 3 again. Thank you. All right, that will now conclude this month's meeting. Thank you.